We're live with another episode of BS Busters. It's been a while. It's been like 3 weeks, but we had stuff to do, and life was kicking everyone's ass. Life was not what we would normally want it to be, but we had to deal with it. But before we go any further, what you been playing, man?
Well, right now I'm playing Street Fighter 6. Haven't really
Okay,
been playing too much of games lately.
Street Fighter 6. That's always a good one. Uh,
Yeah.
Especially how you're just basically running around.
Meat City.
Well,
Is that
no,
Meat City?
Metro City.
Metro City.
Yeah, you run around in Metro City, and I'm like, man, that was amazing. I wish they had actually made like a Final Fight 2, but they were like, we don't want to do that. I mean, a Final Fight reboot. Even though people would have wanted that, fuck that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't get anything on the Steam sale this year. No. I mean I got one game. I got Persona 3 the Ultimate Edition. Um the remake of Persona 3. But other than that, that's pretty much all I ended up getting. Did you get anything during the Steam sale?
Yeah. I bought a whole bunch of like I got the Fantasian game, um, Neo Dimension. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Like here's the thing, right? Like Hironobu Sakaguchi made Final Fantasy what it is, and Square Enix, after he left, ran it into the fucking ground. But this man made a budget Final Fantasy game that's better and more Final Fantasy than anything we've gotten out of Square Enix in years. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's fucking embarrassing. I got Sea of Stars too, but I've been on an RPG kick. But I'm I've been playing it and I'm like, wow, they've been doing a better job with shit than anything we've been getting with
Yeah.
it's embarrassing. So I don't know what to say except I mean, it's I mean, it should be fairly obvious that Square Enix doesn't know how to make good games anymore.
Yeah.
And it's sad because it shouldn't be this way. Like, like you've seen how this year they finally said, okay, we're going to stop just releasing Final Fantasy on just PlayStation platforms. Because it's not like this isn't like back in the day where Final Fantasy could be on one platform and it would make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Final Fantasy's name isn't as big as it used to be, and they burnt a lot of people with the remake. So I mean, that's why the sales were down. People are like, the remake wasn't what they wanted for a lot of people.
No, it's not. It's not what it used to be. And people don't understand that. People don't understand that Final Fantasy is not what it used to be. Final Fantasy is not what it used to be. Final Fantasy is not. Final Fantasy is not what it once was. It's. It's. I mean. Final Fantasy just, and I remember when Final Fantasy was this juggernaut of, Final Fantasy was this juggernaut of a fucking IP. It's not that anymore. It's not. It's not what it used to be. Final Fantasy. Like, I knew Final Fantasy was fucked when they came out with Final Fantasy 16, and the guy who was working on it was like, "Oh yeah, well, I don't think Final Fantasy needs to be a JRPG." I'm like, it does need to be a JRPG. That's what Final Fantasy is. Like, this guy's like, Yoshi P's like, I think that's a dirty word. It's not. It's not a dirty word. That's what Final Fantasy is. Final Fantasy has always been a JRPG. That's what it is. If Final Fantasy isn't a JRPG, I don't know what the fuck it should be. Like, what? I'm like, what do you think it should be? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, I hate to say it like this. Final Fantasy is the Taco Bell of JRPGs. Allow me to explain, okay? When Hironobu Sakaguchi ran that franchise, when he was the executive producer, Final Fantasy was like Taco Bell in that they took a whole bunch of different ingredients. Like, they took the same 5 or 6 ingredients and mixed them in different ways in order to create different dishes. And you didn't notice it as a gamer. You were just like, oh yeah, I'm enjoying this. But that's basically what Final Fantasy was. It was the 5 or 6 things remixed multiple ways to create new things. You know what I mean? Like, you would have summons, you would have Rama, you would have Ifrit, you would have Shiva, you'd have the same monsters, different interpretations of the same monsters. A story where you had a group of protagonists going around village to village, city to city, town to town, going through dungeons, like rinse and repeat. And yeah, the stories would be slightly different. Like, Final Fantasy 1 story is, 4 elemental crystals. Final Fantasy 2 story is this grand scope. This evil empire is trying to destroy everything. Final Fantasy 3 is, we've got the 4 crystals again, but more classes associated with them. Final Fantasy 4 was like a direct grand story where your character starts out as a dark knight, Cecil, and then he becomes a paladin in order to redeem himself. It's like, this is some nice, interesting storytelling. Like, Final Fantasy 4 is where it really became like the story became really important. Final Fantasy V is like an upgraded version of Final Fantasy III with a better story.
Yeah.
And then you get Final Fantasy VI, which arguably is perhaps the best Final Fantasy ever created. You know, to me, Final Fantasy went down when it went to Final Fantasy went down when it went to 3D. And I know some people are going to get mad about that, but that's just how I feel. You agree, disagree, don't care?
Yeah. It went down after, when it went to 3D, it went down.
You know, that's my own personal opinion. Some people are going to get mad about that. And they'll be like, how dare you? But, I mean, come on, man. Because, like, everyone's like, man, I love Final Fantasy VII. But having played Final Fantasy VI to Final Fantasy VII back to back, I'll tell you right now, Final Fantasy VII is a 3D version of Final Fantasy VI. But the characters aren't as well realized. Like Cloud is Terra, but Terra has a more realized
Yeah.
story than Cloud does. Like literally, both characters start out with having a fucked up memory, and it's about them reclaiming their autonomy from having a fucked up memory.
Yeah.
That's basically what the characters are. But the problem is that Terra has a more like her reclaiming her humanity after the World of Ruin, where she basically becomes foster mom to these fucking orphans, and she realizes, oh, I have to take care of these kids in this fucked up world. It's like, oh, that's an interesting. There's a reason that she would gain her humanity. There is no real like. It's really hard for you to have Cloud reclaiming his humanity by him basically getting mad that Sephiroth killed Eris. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
someone you just met. I don't like. Why are you mad? It's like, you know, you got Tifa there. Tifa, who's totally like giving him I really want you to stick that sword in me, and not the Buster sword, the other sword. Okay, and we all know the sword she's talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna ignore this chick with the who's incredibly busty with the barely covering my midriff t-shirt and suspenders on." No, no, no. I gotta have Eris. Eris is what I want. I'm sorry, man. Just come on. Final Fantasy VIII is even like if you thought Final Fantasy VII had an emo, low energy protagonist, oh shit, they doubled down on it with Squall Leonhardt. It got even worse with Final Fantasy VIII. It got worse. Like Final Fantasy VII in retrospect has a certain level of credit because it is basically a 3D version of Final Fantasy VI. Just they gender swap the main characters. And they gender swap the main character, and the characters in Final Fantasy VII I find aren't as interesting in the characters in Final Fantasy VI. But Final Fantasy VIII, holy shit, are those characters poorly realized. Um, and that battle system, they punish you for grinding. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. I hate when games do that.
Yeah, they punish you for grinding, which is just
The whole point of RPG is figuring out how to exploit it.
yeah. You figure out how to break the game.
Yeah.
but they punish you for grinding. I'm like, what? But anyway, so enough about that. So yeah, basically, Square Enix has finally admitted that, hey, we need to start releasing our games on other platforms. It can't just be just PlayStation. Which, I mean, I could have told you that, because like Square Enix, Sony doesn't support JRPGs like they used to. The reason Square Enix was able to um, take over Japan and really grow as much as Sony was able to grow as a brand is because they supported JRPGs up until the latter half of the PS2. Into the PS3, they shifted to supporting more of Western style games, to the detriment of um, everybody else. And people don't talk about that. You know, people don't talk about how that shit was broken.
Yeah.
But you know, what do I know? I'm just some guy, you know. Anyway, anything else you want to add before we move on to the next topic?
Mm.
No, nothing. All right. Okay, I guess
Nope.
we'll move on to the next topic, which is there's some good games coming out this year. Like astonishingly like better games than we deserve.
What games are those?
Well, just in the beginning of the year, we're getting stuff like let me look it up. Games coming out in 2025. This is just in January and February. I'm not going with anything else. We're getting The Legend of Cyber Cowboy that came out New Year's. Sea Fantasy, Learn to Play, Gravity Spacewalk, Rivenar's Grove, Sleight of Hand, Threefold Recital, Runny Bunny, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. And that's a lie, because they're saying it's coming out to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. It is not coming to any of those but the Switch. Montezuma's Revenge is coming out January 16th. Things Too Ugly. Tales of Grace's F Remastered, that's coming out to everything. Aiden, Magic Inn, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Gravitators, Star Wars Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles, because everyone was asking for that. I'm being facetious, by the way. No one was asking for that. Sin Duality, Echo of Ada, Cuisinier, Neptunia Riders versus Doggos, The Stone of Madness, Warside, Agent Fall, Sniper Elite Resistance, Spider-Man 2, Genso Manige. February is going to be the big month because we got a lot of good shit coming out in February. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, that's coming out February 4th. Rift of the Necro Dancer, I guess that's the sequel to Crypt of the Necro Dancer. Ambulance Life, a paramedic simulator, because, people want to simulate not getting there in time to save somebody's life. Moons of Darsalon, Sid Meier Civilization 7, Phantom Breaker, Battlegrounds Unlimited, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak 2, Avowed coming out February 18th, Lost Records Bloom and Rage Tape 1, Monster Hunter Wilds, and Omega 6 The Triangle Stars. Oh shit, that's a lot of games.
Yeah, that's a lot of games.
Yeah. There's a lot of good shit coming out in March. 2 Point Museum, Wizardom, Fragpunk, Split Fiction, Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster, Wanderstop, Lost Records Bloom and Rage Tape 2, Atelier Yumiya, Tales of the Shire, because no one wanted that. AI Limit, Atomfall, which is basically like London Fallout, and the first Berserker Kazan. Suffice it to say, there's a lot of games. And that's just in the first 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot.
So
They're starting to learn to put their stuff out
to spread it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more to life than putting everything at fucking summer or November or December or January.
Mm.
Like, people, I mean, if people have jobs and work full time, people have money all year. Or at least people should have money all year, not these people. They're like, oh, this. I don't care. I don't. I want to put everything in 2 months of the year.
Yeah.
Because heaven forbid, heaven forbid, you have your game come out at some other part of the year. I've never understood that. It's like, we got to put everything out at one time of the year. No, you don't. You don't have to. Please stop. Like I said, I don't know about you, but I have money all year round.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of games coming out, and it's good. It's good. I like the fact that we have a lot of games coming out and different genres and stuff like that. It's not just, you know. But do you have anything else to ask before we? Anything else you want to add before we wrap things up? Before we move on to the final
Um,
topic?
no,
All right. So next we're gonna go with another topic, um, which is the fact that Obsidian is dropping two big AA games this year. They're dropping Avowed in February, and then sometime later this year, they're also allegedly going to be dropping The Outer Worlds 2. Now, from what I heard, Avowed is basically they're taking all of their technical know-how on making AA um, RPGs, and they're basically, instead of having a huge open world that's has the breadth of a ocean with the depth of a puddle like Bethesda does, they're instead going for something that has the breadth of a pond but it's kind of deep. There's a lot of verticality and shit in that pond. And I, for one, am looking forward to it. I've always said that Obsidian is one of the kings of making RPGs, Western style RPGs, and I'm glad to see they're still doing it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this game. It takes place in the same universe as what was the name of that title? Fuck.
Pillars of Eternity.
Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. Yes, it took place in the
Yeah.
same. Now I played those games and I was like, these are basically like a throwback to those Infinity Engine CRPGs from back in the day, like Baldur's Gate 2, Neverwinter Nights, Neverwinter Nights 2, Icewind Dale 2. Um, shit. Planes of Torment, stuff like that. And this game is very much like it's inspired by those games, Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, which were very much inspired by those style of games. But where Pillars of Eternity 2 was kind of a flop for Obsidian, this game is more of a first person action game, kind of like their take on what Skyrim did, but I think Obsidian will pull off a better game than Skyrim because Skyrim, like I said, is a very broad game, doesn't have a lot of depth to it.
Yeah.
Whereas Obsidian, like I've never played a Obsidian JRPG, Obsidian RPG, and not been like, wow, this is a world that I would want to learn more about. Their ability to leave you wanting to know more about the world they've crafted uh, is second to none for Western RPGs, in my opinion. Um, because the people working at this studio right now are the people who made games like the Temple of Elemental Evil, Troika Games, who did the Temple of Elemental Evil and Neverwinter Nights 2 and um, Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodlines, stuff like that. They know how to make a world that feels like, wow, I want to explore this world. I would say that if you want to get an understanding of what I think Avowed is going to be, go play Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, where it's like a sandbox with a lot of shit going on in that sandbox, and you doing side quests and stuff in those sandboxes from point A to point A to point A to point A to point B to point C, and like a lot of little things going on in a massive sandbox. Which I mean, to be fair, with the way my time is these days, I would rather have a series of small interconnected sandboxes than have a massive open world where there's not a lot of shit going on. like a Skyrim or a Starfield or a Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. I know those are dirty words.
Mm.
Some people are going to get mad about that. But not content with dropping Avowed earlier this year, apparently they're also going to try and drop Outer Worlds 2 later on this year. And that's going to be amazing because Outer Worlds 2 looks like everything that you wanted in the first game that they couldn't do because they were crunched by budget, they can do now because they already have the framework for what they need to do. So everything is just padding to pad out what they want to do in the first game. So I'm quite happy about this. I'm looking forward to this game. I want it to do well. Obsidian deserves a win. You know,
Yeah,
because they
they've
are
been
a
getting
creative
screwed over
studio.
for,
Pardon me?
yeah, they've been getting screwed over for years.
Yeah, you know, they like.
What was that?
No, I was just saying they don't take care of. Obsidian has always getting the short end of the stick. You know, they can never catch a break.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, they made Fallout New Vegas, which, I mean, in hindsight is widely considered to be one of the best Fallout games ever made. And because, like, I think they had to get like a 90% on Metacritic in order to get their bonuses, they only got like 85 or 86. So they didn't get their bonuses. I'm like, that's some bullshit. Because
Mm.
critically, it's like on a technical level, even though it technically didn't run as well as Fallout 3 because they weren't as familiar with the Gamebryo engine, on a technical, like on a critical level and in terms of storytelling, it tells a better story than Fallout 3 did. And yet, because of technical issues, because of that fucked up engine, they basically got fucked out of their bonuses, you know? But fans of that franchise know that Fallout New Vegas is like the best Fallout game, modern Fallout game, because I mean, you notice how Bethesda hasn't really let any outside studios make a Fallout game since then, right? Especially good outside studios, because they might get shown up. I mean, people are like, oh, you guys suck. You guys are terrible at making games. Um, but what do I know? I'm just some guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else you'd like to add before we move on to free topic and unpopular opinion?
Uh, no. Hopefully Bethesda wises up and gives them, or Microsoft wises up and says, "Hey, you want to make a Fallout spin-off game?" There's no way they're gonna let them make a Fallout 5.
I'm gonna
Uh,
say something
they're
that's
making a
well,
spin-off game.
I'll save it for unpopular opinion. Okay, I guess I'll do it. Unpopular opinion. I think, like, in my personal opinion, I think that Microsoft needs to take Fallout away, like the mainline Fallout games away from Bethesda because they've shown that they don't know how to make good Fallout games. Like
Yeah.
Fallout 3 I consider to be overrated. Fallout 4 was trash. Fallout 76 was like if you thought Fallout 4 was trash, they were like, wait a second, you think that was some bullshit? Hold my beer. Fallout 76. So you've had 3 Fallout games that were utter and complete trash from the people who now own the IP. It's not their IP. They bought the IP. They didn't create it. They bought it. And yet, I mean, if you ask fans of Fallout, they'll tell you like what's the best Fallout game. Most of them will say Fallout New Vegas. Why is that?
Yeah.
Well, because Obsidian crafted a better game, and also Obsidian was made up of people who made the original Fallout, so they have a vested interest in making a good game. Versus Bethesda, which just bought the shit, you know. Like, imagine how you're going to feel about a computer that you built yourself versus one that you just bought from somebody.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my unpopular opinion. They should take the IP away from they should just take that IP away from Bethesda. Let them focus on Fallout and Starfield. I mean, Elder Scrolls and Starfield. Shit that they created, because clearly it's clear to me that they don't actually give a fuck about, you know, the IPs that they didn't create.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's my own personal opinion. I could be wrong. Do you have an unpopular opinion you'd like to share?
I have a couple. One unpopular opinion is it's time to scale back on graphics and focus more on art style, and because the optimization just seems to be getting worse.
Well, yeah, and you know why that is, right?
It's because of well, because of DL. It's because of publishers rushing developers and the reliance on FSR and DLSS as it comes to PC gaming. So you don't have to really optimize your games.
I think I would say that's about 40 to 30% of it. I think the other half of it is that everyone is switching over to Unreal Engine. And
That too.
the thing about Unreal Engine is that, and I told people this when everyone's like, "Oh, they're switching over to Unreal. Unreal's great." Unreal is a mediocre engine. It doesn't do anything really well. It's not optimized for physics. It's not optimized for having a massive amount of objects being rendered at one time. It's mediocre in the classic sense of the denotative meaning of mediocre, which means of median quality. Okay, it's it's a mediocre engine. It's basically, if you really want to know what Unreal really is, Unreal is basically like a higher end Unity. Unity is a mediocre engine. It can do anything and everything, but not really that well. That's Unreal. It's higher end. It's a higher end mediocre uh, engine for creating games. Really,
Yeah.
it's a higher end tool set for making games. But here's the thing: because no one no because developers have no incentive to actually optimize Unreal for anything, because it runs okay to mediocre on everything. They don't optimize anything. Nothing is optimized to run on anything. Everything is just, well, we're just going to brute force it. It's the reason why all these games made in Unreal are like, oh man, you have to have a dynamite PC rig to run this game at 60 frames per second solid. Why? you shouldn't need a 4070, 4080, 4090 to run a game that is like 60 gigs. That's unrealistic. But that's what gaming has returned to, because they're all like, oh my god, we gotta have, we all have to use Unreal and it has to look amazing. It's like Unreal is not, and no one's optimizing these engines. They're unoptimized.
Yeah.
But continue.
Yeah, exactly. My second unpopular opinion is there are times where older games feel more immersive than some of these modern games because you have to use your imagination to fill in the gaps because of the limitations of the technology.
Yeah,
Sometimes it feels like there's more of an immersion aspect to it.
yeah. Also, I think that
Whereas,
developers back in the day could take more chances with the games, because
yeah,
the middle market, like the middle market has pretty much fucking disappeared. There aren't any middle market games. It's either AAA or now quadruple A. There's no middle market anymore. The problem is that when you had middle market games and lower games, you could take chances. Because if a game only had to
yeah,
sell like 250 to 300 million, 250 to 300,000 copies in order to be profitable, and everything above that was just gravy, that was amazing. You didn't have to spend as much. You could take chances. You could say, hey, I want to make a game where the main character is a zombie, right? And not like a dude bro zombie, like he's a loser zombie. You can't do that now. Games can't take. It's like the movie industry, where movies have to either use an established IP or be a sequel to something. No one wants to take any chances because movies are too fucking expensive. The middle market is gone.
yeah, yeah. And without hardly any limitations, they maybe it's not so much the developers that lack imagination, but
The developers don't want to take chances.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're like, we're not
Or
spending
maybe they
money.
want to take chances.
Yeah. They're like, we're not spending money on something that we're not guaranteed going to have a return on investment. And I understand if you're, uh, spending money on something, you expect to, like if you invest in something, you expect for it to grow over time. You don't want it to just, crash. I understand the monetary aspect of it, but I also realize that, like, you I understand the business aspect of it, but I also realize that gaming can't, if we don't have a return to the middle market, gaming is not going to get better. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like we can't, if we don't have a return to games that take chances and do interesting things, then games are just going to continue to go downhill. And I don't want games to go downhill.
yeah, yeah,
Anyway, anything else you want to add before we wrap things up? Anything you want to pimp out?
uh, oh yeah. I just put up a new song, Project Open Mic. It'll be it's called Not to Be Unrung, Curse of the Red Sun. Check it out when you get a chance.
All right, that sounds interesting. This is Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor of BS Busters. We have returned. I think we'll have another cast next week. It should be fun and interesting. Um, yeah, it's been a while, but everyone needed a recharge and not thinking about video games or anything like that. But we're back in the groove. There should be some good stuff coming out. Stay in touch with the channel. You can reach me at mrredfoxbsbuster at gmail.com. The link is in the description. You can also join our Discord. I might start a Patreon for those of you. It'll be like $1 or something, nothing too insane. Um, that's the end of the cast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. Play your games. There's some good shit coming out in the first 3 months of the year. So, if you want this hobby to thrive, then you have to support it. And that means also occasionally buying shit that isn't on sale. I know that's hard for some people, but sometimes if you want to support it, you got to get it when it's not on sale. That's the end of the
Yeah.
cast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe, play the games, all that stuff, etc., etc. If
Oh,
you
and it doesn't, and going off of that, it doesn't hurt as much as long as it doesn't hurt as much as long as it's a game you really want to play. Keep it.
exactly, if it's something you really want to play, like I am probably going to get Avowed. I'm probably going to get the premium edition because it's Obsidian and I like to support that studio. I'll probably do the same thing with the Yakuza game, the Like a Dragon Yakuza game, because I like that franchise. I haven't bought a Yakuza game on sale since it was on consoles. Like when on PC, I get it. I get the special editions with all the little bennies and shit like that because I like the franchise. But you don't have to be like that. You do you, bro. But just for me personally, I like to support certain franchises. That being said, remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe, play your games, etc., etc. Good night and peace.